You're listening
to the CD Baby
CD Baby
DIY
Musician
Podcast.
Hey there, and welcome to episode number 171 of the CD Baby DIY Musician Podcast. My name is Kevin Bruner, and joining me is Chris Robley. How are you, Chris?
I'm good. For anyone that was disturbed by our last episode, you'll be happy to know that I have a shirt on.
Oh, you kept it on because you were threatening before we started recording to take it off because I made you turn the fan off because it was causing
It's super
noise.
hot here again. No, but I decided I'm going to stick it out. And
What a trooper. Speaking of shirts, and weather, it's also extremely hot here in Portland, Oregon, and I am wearing a Chris Robley shirt in honor of you.
Oh, wow.
I thought he might go shirtless again, so if somebody's going to wear a shirt, I'll wear a Chris Robley shirt.
So if you would, you should take a picture of yourself, put it on Instagram, and show everyone how comfortable you are.
Yes.
In that shirt.
It breathes. Even in the heat, it breathes.
Yep. I didn't skimp on what do you call it? On threads.
You did not. This is a quality item. All right. We have some good things to talk about today. We're going to be discussing 10 mistakes you might be making right now. And we compiled a list of things we see lots of artists, mistakes lots of artists make. And I think I've made many of these myself. But a lot of mistakes that aren't the obvious ones, but 10 mistakes artists continue to make that can be damaging to their career. So we're going to talk about that. We have news and such. But Chris, I think I would not be doing my job if I did not mention the DIY Musician Conference on this podcast. We've mentioned it a while back. Been a few episodes since we've mentioned it. The tickets are flying like hotcakes. It's going to be an amazing event. And I think all our listeners should be there. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. And some people from that have attended last year's conference are shooting testimonial videos about why they're going back. And hopefully people can watch some of those. And it's pretty cool to see. They've been sending them to me on Dropbox. And, just to see the enthusiasm that they still have a year later. And, that it changed their career enough that they're saying, you know what, I'm just going to go back and it'll be awesome again. So,
yeah. And I have to say, we set the bar pretty high last year, and I thought we had some great guests. This year, I don't know how we're going to be able to top this year. We've got Bob Boilen from NPR, from All Songs Considered. And he is going to be there with Galen Lee, who is the Tiny Desk concert winner this year. They're going to be talking about NPR and its impact on music. And we've got Alexandra Patsavas, who is the top music supervisor in Hollywood. Just Google her name. Her credits are unbelievable. Folks like Jack Conte. We're going to be talking about playlisting, lots of sync content. We've got a lot of content about sync licensing and some more songwriting content this time around. So I'm really excited about it. I think it's great. Plus, we're going to be doing free band photos. If you want a band photo, our photographer, Becky Yee, who has been on the podcast and also shot photos of the conference and presented a session last year, she's coming back to do that. And I asked her to spend a day doing free band photos for everyone who comes to the conference. I forget the conference. I'm going to just get a free band photo from her. She's like a top commercial photographer in New York City.
I'm going to bring different outfits and different makeup so I can keep going through the line. And
You probably will. You probably will.
What
So
else
anyway-
is going on? We've got awesome sponsors too. Berkeley and Gig Salad. And is it right?
Sweetwater.
Sweetwater. Is Pandora on board?
Yep, they're on board.
Pandora, yep. So,
Merch Cat's another one.
Merch Cats. And you can come and you can meet representatives from all these places. And
Yeah, so it's going to be a great event. Chris and I will be there. We are going to be doing a live taping of the podcast. We did that last year. It was fun. Actually, I think it ended with one of the most hilarious interactions I've ever had with an artist. If you want to listen to that episode, it's on there. It's on the feed. But we did it in the big room last year. This year we're gonna do it in a smaller room, so it's a little more cozy. And it's going to be interactive and fun, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So Looking forward to seeing everybody there. Right now, tickets are $99, but if you're hearing this, it's possible you only have a day or two left to get it at that price before it goes up to $129. And so don't wait. You can go to DIYmusiciancon.com to get all the details and tickets. And yeah, it'll be fun. We'll hang out. We'll
And
have
for
a good
about
time.
another month, there is a special on room rates at the hotel where it's all happening. So if you want to stay where everything is going on,
Yeah.
there's discounted rates for about another month, I think.
Yeah, you won't find a hotel in downtown Chicago at this price. It's a good price. So it's right in the heart of Chicago. We hope to see you there. With all that said, let's get into the news.
CD Baby.
Music.
All right. In the past couple years, SoundCloud has made many changes that have frustrated the music creator community, but this time SoundCloud has made a change that musicians will find very useful. If you're an artist using SoundCloud, log into your profile and select any of your playlists that you'd like to move to the album format. Yes, they have a new album format. So this will organize that collection of tracks into SoundCloud's new album section on your profile and allow it to be discoverable via search. In Spotify news, Spotify has announced a new feature that might actually drive discovery of your music. They call it Release Radar. This is how they describe it on the Spotify blog. With Release Radar, we're giving every Spotify user a weekly selection of the new releases that matter most to them, all in one convenient playlist. Updated every Friday, Release Radar gives fans up to 2 hours of new music from their favorite artists, sprinkled in with some new discoveries based on their listening habits. As an artist, this means it's even more essential to get your fans to follow you on Spotify. Your new releases are automatically added to every follower's Release Radar. So the more followers you have, the more fans that'll never miss out on new tunes. Release Radar is brand new, but it should be available to all your fans worldwide right now.
The Spotify thing is cool and exciting. I just thought, though, there's one kind of slight bummer about it, is that it's only working if someone has followed your music, right? It doesn't work. Like, if someone were to have listened to your album like 20 times, are they going to hear your music, or do they have to actually follow you?
Possibly. There's some automated stuff it says. So, like, if you've listened to a bunch of a certain artist but haven't followed them, I bet, because it said it would sprinkle some other tracks in there, I bet those things would pop up into your feed. I would assume, based on the information there, that it's an algorithm that prioritizes things. Like, anything that, if you follow a bunch of artists, if they've got new releases, those are going to get priority. After that, it's going to be stuff that maybe by artists that are related to those artists that you follow, or other stuff you've listened to a lot that maybe you're not following yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a user, I don't follow anyone. Like, I listen to stuff all day long, but I may have liked or followed 2 people in my life on Spotify, so...
Yeah, I went on before we started recording this and looked at to see how many people I was following, and I followed a bunch more folks. To me, this is actually a really cool feature. I'm not a music discovery buff. I'm not one of those people that always has to know what the latest music is. But it does bum me out when I find out, oh, this band I love's had a new album for 3 months, and I had no idea. So I actually think it's a really cool thing, and that's probably one playlist I actually will start checking out every week because it's based on some of my preferences. So I'm excited about it because I think as an artist, as we move into the streaming world, we're moving from a buying economy to a listening economy. And so, yes, artists should get paid more for their music. I'm always an advocate of that. But you've got to realize that the goal is to get people listening. So any ways that you can get more people listening, and also the idea that releasing more music and building a catalog is really what's going to drive success in the new music economy. Because if people want to listen to you, they're not going to listen to one song on repeat for 10 hours a day, but they might put on 2 hours worth of your music catalog while they're working, and that's draw fans in and keep them listening more. So I think it's encouraging things in the right direction, and it was something that actually seemed useful to me.
Yeah, and there might be an argument there for releasing more frequently, and not just album formats, like, putting out singles, putting out EPs or whatever, because every time you do, it's another opportunity to get that, that bump through this radar program. And as opposed to just putting out an album and then you might be, your music might be populated in all these playlists for a short amount of time, but then it takes you another 2 years to get featured as a new arrival.
Yeah, we might have to do a whole Spotify strategy playlist episode. We were talking with Ben here at CD Baby yesterday, who works with some of the labels and bigger name artists that use CD Baby, and he had all this information about using Spotify to your advantage. And there's a lot of really cool ways and strategies you can use the platform to repurpose content that you've already created, songs that are already out there. So that episode we should probably make that episode.
Let's do it.
I'd listen to it.
Yeah, well, I should just interview him and make it a blog post first, and then we can basically make a really boring episode of the podcast where we just read the blog post.
And closing out the news section, just a quick mention of SoundCloud. That feature is something that has baffled me forever, that you couldn't organize an album together as an album, but they finally made that happen. The SoundCloud has always had a strong following with the EDM crowd and people making electronic music, and I think part of it is because it was based around just a single song, and you could comment on the songs, and some of those songs last 10 minutes, if not more, if it's like a bunch of different mixes and things. And so it fits that format, but for people releasing albums, it felt really disjointed in the experience. So I'm assuming that now that they're making a go at becoming an official streaming service, that they had to add in an album format, just because that's the way music is organized.
And having uploaded my most recent album to SoundCloud prior to its release, so that I could do a promo campaign or PR campaign. Like, there's so many times as I'm uploading these tracks, I'm like, why don't they just have this thing? So now it's here.
It's here. All right. Well, we've got a good conversation. I believe we're about to have a good conversation. That's what I want to say. I don't know if it's going to be good.
Fingers are crossed. Yeah.
Yeah, fingers are crossed. And then we actually have 3 calls afterwards, so we're gonna get to it. So today we're gonna be talking about 10 mistakes you might be making right now. Unless we can, is there a punchier title you can come up with, Chris?
10 mistakes you're making right now. I like it.
Okay.
It's got that fear, the urgency and fear.
Yeah. So we both put together 5 things that we're gonna share, and really the basis of this is like there's a lot of bad habits that people have. There's things that are irritating that people do, and no one wants to say, hey man, you're irritating everybody when you do that. And you're like, oh, that's why I'm not getting results. And in the music community, there are, I think, a lot of those bad habits or bad strategies or things that we see artists doing. Some of them I'm guilty of myself. And these are more general. There are some specifics around some of them, but some of them are more like concepts. And so, but anyway, there's a good chance you're making some of these, and we thought we'd highlight them and say, stop it.
Yeah, so are we going to alternate, or are we going to go through our own lists, and how's this going to work?
Let's alternate. Why don't you lead us off?
Okay, so one that I am guilty of too often is procrastinating on concert promotion. So like, you book the gig, maybe it's 3 months out, you're excited, but then you get wrapped up in other things, and then suddenly it's like 2 or 3 weeks before the gig, and you're like, oh crap, I gotta create a Facebook event and invite friends. Oh no, I didn't make a concert poster. Whatever is entailed in promoting this show. I'm particularly letting local press know, which usually takes 4 to 6 weeks of advance notice. There's sort of maybe a checklist of things you should create around a concert or gig, and put them on your calendar and make sure you're checking them off in a timely manner, so that your fans can A, know about it, and then B, be reminded of it and plan their own lives accordingly and all this stuff. And I so many times I've been like, oh no, I have a gig in 2 weeks, and then that's when I'm rushing to get this stuff done. And it's you know, I don't know what effect it has, but I'm sure it has a negative effect on turnout.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because many times I've seen a Facebook event page created on a Wednesday afternoon or a Thursday afternoon for a show that's happening on Friday night. That's not going to be successful. Not that no one's going to come to the show, but that is not going to. You have to plan further ahead. You know what? This could almost fall into a much bigger bucket that I find people in even projects I'm a part of guilty of is underestimating what it actually takes to pull something off.
Yeah.
You know, that, and I've played for people where they're like, hey, will you do this album release show with us, or will you help us promote this concert? And I'll be like, okay. And they'll be really excited about it like 8 weeks out, 12 weeks out, and then nothing until a week out, and they're realizing, oh man, this is going to be far more work than I realized.
Yeah. And then often then it's too late.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's a big one. I think procrastinating on concert promotion, and if you just blow it on promoting a show, you might not get invited back. It's not something you want to take lightly.
Yeah, the other bands involved, if there are other acts in the venue and all this, they want to know that you're doing everything that you can to bring people out and make the night a success. And this sort of tangential thought, but it could probably be its own number on our list, is ideally you're turning every event or every show into its own thing that has its own unique story. We use that word a lot, but so it's not just another gig, but there's something special about every show you play. And if that's true, then you need this lead up time to tell that different story and show why this show is different from the show you played a month ago or whatever. And that takes, different concert poster artwork, a different spin to the local media, different Facebook event for sure. But, all of these things help you differentiate your events from show to show.
You just brought up a good point about showing up and disappointed, like you're playing with other artists. I've played shows before where I've seen a band that has a draw and they've done a good job, and so specifically sought them out to partner with them on a show and busted my backside to promote the show, and they show up and go, we didn't promote this one. We just didn't bother. And I'm like, what? Now I never want to play with you again. Yeah, because it was one of those things where I'm like, I have seen them do a good job. They have fans, and they just decided that the show that, I put together and we put a bill together, and this was at a really good venue too. And it's like, and we both just kind of looked bad. And so from that point, I never wanted to have them do a show again with us. Not like I didn't like them or didn't like their music anymore. It's just like, I don't have all the, it's not like I have an opportunity every weekend to just phone it in. It's got to be for keeps. And if someone's potentially just gonna show up and go, we've got a rabid fan base, but we just didn't tell them about this one, I'd be like, man.
Yeah,
so
you should have just stayed home. And
so procrastinating to promote the concert could also hurt your relationship with the other folks on the bill.
Yeah.
All right, so that was number one. These are in no particular order, so it's not like we're going to build up to some climax where we all feel really bad about ourselves by the mistakes we're making. But so the first one I put down is talking only about yourself. And what I mean by that is like focusing only on your needs and what you want, whether it's over social media or email, or telling your story in a way that makes you sound like an egomaniac. Or are you telling... I put it this way, are you telling an interesting story? Like as your career unfolds, as good things happen to you, as your audience expands, as you have funny things or interesting things occur in your daily life on the road, or thoughts as a musician, or are you just bragging about stuff? And it can be a real turnoff. And that was something that I was just thinking about the other day. It's always an issue how artists communicate. A lot of times it's very me-centric. I want you to buy my music now. I need you to do this. I want you to do this. As opposed to reaching out to people in a way like, what do they want? What do they need? What might interest them? But also even just in some of the imagery and the way you portray yourself. I think the era of the self-absorbed rock star is over. There may be still pockets of people that connect with that, and really looking at how the kind of image you're portraying, are you just a turnoff to people? Your music may be amazing, but if people can't stand you, it's going to be hard to build a fan base. At least if you don't have a marketing machine that's plastering the universe so much with your image and music that stuff doesn't matter. But for us listening to this show who are trying to build fans and out there talking to folks, that's just something that I see artists making a mistake, and it can be a turnoff.
I struggle with, I don't know if I struggle with that problem. I probably do I bet every artist does to some extent. But what I struggle with is worrying that I'm coming across that way almost with every Facebook post. Because generally, when I'm sharing something on my band page, it's because I, have a new video, or I've gotten some piece of press, or I'm playing a gig, which is ultimately all about me. And so I have to think like, does it come across as, every time I'm communicating, is it just, hey, watch another video, listen to a new song? But then, on the other hand, of course it is in some way, because you've followed my music page. Like, I could talk to you about politics or other things occasionally, but I shouldn't feel bad about sharing, whatever music news is going on in my life, because ultimately that's the purpose of this Facebook page, and that's why you're following me there. But it is a weird thing when you feel like, this is like the sixth one in a row that's about something that I'm putting out there.
It's a balance. Part of it, what started me thinking about this is for some of the presentations I've done in the past, and the keynote I'm working on for the DIY Musician Conference, which everyone listening should attend in Chicago, September 30th through October 2nd. That I was doing a lot of research about, talking about marketing, and just some bullet points around the idea of marketing and how you're communicating, and dove into Twitter and saw about how much, what kind of noticed what a lot of artists were saying. And so many people, it's beyond like telling their story. It's just like, go do this because I need this. And that's not going to motivate anybody. So those kind of things, it's just being aware that, maybe I think a good way to gauge it is like, are you a community member, or like, are there interesting things that you can share? The people that like your music, people like these other artists, maybe there's some, you're become sort of a curator. Hey, I'm not only the artist you like, but I know a lot of these other great artists you should know, and here's this community I'm a part of. And so I think there's some ways you can interject some things that don't make it just always feel like you're just blabbing about yourself. But by the way, Chris, I've never felt that by the stuff you post. But
okay, good.
I have seen that for other artists where they just, it's like, yeah, forget about you. Here's me, So it's just something to consider. It's a mistake people make.
Yeah, I think in my response to this item that you're talking about, like, I'm thinking that almost the counter can be true. Like, sometimes we're so worried about seeming that way that we hold back, whether it's, I know I certainly hold back about certain emotional aspects of being a musician that I could share, whether it's like being totally thrilled by something or just really disappointed. And like, I tend to kind of try to play it cool and not, you know what I mean? Like, not seem like a emotional basket case or something. But I think a lot of times that is the sort of stuff that people like to see, and like that might make them feel connected with artists, is when you're being more vulnerable in that way. So anyways, I might suffer from the opposite problem.
Yeah, agreed. I have a break in the action here to give people a peek behind the curtain of what's happening at CD Baby today. I just received an email saying that we have a water line break. The water has been shut off to the building and honey buckets are on their way, or I can go to McDonald's down the street and use the bathroom.
Wow. That makes me so happy that I'm working from home.
So, yes, we will be holding it for the rest of the day here at CD Baby.
And don't anyone start a fire.
Yeah, because this thing will go up in 2 seconds. All right, moving on. So what's your second one?
My next one was impatience, which is, I think, kind of the opposite of procrastinating, but it's something I know I suffer from. Like, you've been working on an album and you're really excited to get it done. So you just kind of rush through some steps, whether it's mixing or mastering or artwork or whatever. Or, another common thing we talk about is you get the discs back from the manufacturer and you haven't waited long enough to do a proper promotional push or to, give it enough time for your CD release. And so you just you're like, here's the album, it's out. And I think lots of artists do it. It's understandable. You're excited and you want to just get this thing out, or you want to get something over with, whatever it is, but you're blowing an opportunity to make something of that moment. And I think recently, I know in the last episode or two that we recorded, I talked about how I had 4 music videos, and I kind of knew instinctively that I should be spreading them out like one after another over, 4 weeks or 4 months or whatever. But my publicist had lined them all up basically in 1 week. And I thought, well, you know what? Like, if that's what he's doing, I'll just let him do it and let's just get it over with. And then I can work on the next set of videos or whatever. Like, I'm, guilty of wanting to just clean the slate in a way, so I can move on to the next creative project or whatever. And, it ends up kind of muddying up the waters and ruining each of them having their moment.
Yeah. Where I'm guilty of this, and I see it happen a lot. You mentioned, the album creation process. For me, it's from the point of after getting the first pass of mixes through the mastering process where I feel like I start getting impatient and just start going, I'm just tired of trying to organize, or just kind of fatigued by the whole process. We have a budget. We can't draw this out any longer because they're going to charge us more and we don't have the money, and starting to feel like start making decisions for the wrong reasons where you just get impatient. Like, I just want it to be done, and that usually means you need to take a step back and hit pause, maybe take a few days and not think about music so you can cleanse your ear palette, and then come back again and, maybe approach it in a better state.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting that the impatient part of it coincides often with the stress around budget or time. And then also what you're saying is that loss of perspective. Like, it makes sense. You're getting impatient around the same time as you're just sick to death of, being confused about which is better, the one with the guitar up or the vocals.
Yeah.
So,
or getting people to agree on that. And you're just like, can we just be done? And
then you start questioning how much any of these decisions actually matter.
Yeah. So that's where I'm guilty of that one. My next one is not sending thank you notes.
I'm guilty of this one right now. Yes.
I'm sure most people are guilty of it.
There's 2 thank you notes I've been meaning to write for about 2 months now. And life is busy and things just tumble along. And every day I think I should write those and go down to the post office. And it still hasn't happened. Yeah,
it's tough. And I will say I saw this play out with Small Town Poets firsthand after every leg of a tour, which every day on tour was a full 10-hour, 12-hour day of interviews, on-air appearances, in stores, sound checking, acoustic sets at colleges, and then doing the show. All those people, our manager would start a thank you note and send us this giant, envelope full of these, and we'd sit on the bus and write thank you notes. And every week it was like we got a new batch. And at first it was like, why are we doing this? You would be shocked to hear the people say, you know what? Like big concert promoters, no one's ever sent me a thank you note before. I said yes to having your tour back because doing your next tour because you guys actually thanked me. Or I gave your album a little extra push because you actually thanked me. And nobody ever thanks me.
Wow.
And I think it's one of those things where think about the concert promoter, the club booker. A lot of people are trying to get their attention, but it's all because they want something. It can start to feel like a very thankless job. Even if they have a high-profile position at a very sought-after club, it can start to feel pretty thankless after a while because everybody just wants something from you. How often do people stop and say, hey, you know what, I really appreciate it that you let us play in this opening slot. We enjoyed it, and if you ever have anything open up in the future, we'd love for you to consider us. Even something that simple can go a long way. And we saw it time after time again, just with saying thanks, that opportunities opened up for us, or that person gave us a bigger opportunity. It was amazing to see. And I still see that play out. A lot of people don't get thanked for what they do.
Yep, and 2 of them are still waiting for thanks from me.
That's right. These better be amazing thank you notes at this point.
Well, this episode will be the fire under my pants that I need.
All right. Everyone who's listening has to go harass at Chris Robley on Twitter and harass him over whether or not he got those thank you notes written. I think this will be a good therapy session. We will get you to finish and complete and not procrastinate.
And if you happen to know that you're one of the people that's waiting for the thank you note, you can just say, "Where's my thank you note?"
There you go. All right, what's your next one?
So yeah, I'm going with, it feels like you're going with the very specific ones, and I'm going with the sort of more general things.
That works.
But yeah,
that
so
works.
my third one is overcommitting, which, when you have many responsibilities, family, job, music, even within music, maybe you play in multiple bands, and or even within one band, you feel like maybe you're playing too many shows and things are blending together and you're kind of diluting things. Like, instead of half-assing 10 different things, you could really focus on 1 or 2 of them and do them super well. Using gigs as an example, instead of playing, maybe 4 to 6 times in your town over the course of 6 months, like, play twice and make them huge, with costumes and crazy stage props and that's just one example. Maybe instead of shooting 12 low budget music videos, you save up your time and energy and money and you make 1 or 2 really amazing ones. I think we all overcommit because we get excited to things and we say yes to lots of stuff, and then suddenly we're out of energy and out of time.
Well, I think this kind of plays into your number 1 as well, about procrastinating on concert promotion. I think a lot of times that procrastination happens because people are overcommitted. There's nothing wrong with taking your time with shows and doing a good job. It doesn't matter if it's, a smaller venue that's not as popular, that is easier to get a gig at. You can still make that a special show, and you don't have to just discount it and go, well, I need 5 other shows that are better than this one. I mean, I think putting more effort into each thing and making it better is better than having 100 things on your schedule, on your plate.
Agreed.
All right, my next one is more specific, or no, more general, I should say. You were saying mine were more specific, but this one's a little more general. I think a mistake that we're probably all guilty of, not taking time to get to know other bands, artists, musicians in your own scene. Actually, Chris, I think you're pretty good at this one.
Yeah? Well, thanks.
You seem to know a lot of people in town, where I think that's something that a lot of artists sort of head out thinking that they're competing with everybody in the scene instead of working together to create the scene.
That being said, you should forgive yourself a little bit, because when I was doing that in Portland, Oregon, I was doing it over a matter of about 9 or 10 years without a child. And then I moved to the other Portland and had a child, and I don't know anyone.
Sure you do. I see photos of you with people.
No, I know. I do know some musicians, but I don't. My level of engagement with this music scene is way, way less than it was in Oregon when I didn't have the obligations of being a father. So you, on the other hand, have been a father for much of that time. So don't beat yourself up.
Well, part of the reason I'm beating myself up is because part of me feels like I just don't care.
Oh,
That's my problem. No, I do care. It can be simple things like when you're at a show with someone, take time, hang out with the band, get to know them, ask them questions about what they've been doing, what's been working, what's not been working. If it's a good fit, maybe strategize some future shows, or maybe ask them some other artists in the area that are worth knowing. Take some people out to coffee or a drink or something. So I think those are some of the things. I think trying to figure out how to collaborate with other people instead of just looking like their competition for that slot at the club. Because we all have a competitive nature. We all want to be the headliner.
You're foreshadowing my next item on the list.
All right, well, bring it.
Well, mine was seeing things as a competition is a giant mistake.
You're right. I just noticed that.
I always think that we sometimes think, like you're saying, that there's this competition over attention for gig slots or whatever. We see things as a zero-sum game, and that in order for you to succeed, someone else has to be, fail in some way, which is total nonsense because oftentimes I see bands that are doing really well. It's because they have a more communal mindset. They are, eager to help or, to at least be open about sharing knowledge and resources and stuff. And basically, I was thinking of the Yoda quote about
See that here.
that viewing art as a competition leads to fear. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
That wasn't a very good Yoda impersonation.
No.
You need to work on that.
Okay, maybe you can just fly in some audio of Yoda.
Okay, yeah.
But let's see, a couple months ago, I knew a guy named Putnam Smith who lives in Maine, who's been touring quite a bit regionally, and he knows lots of the local venues, good listening rooms, and I don't. I just haven't had a lot of time to sort of get into this scene. So I said, hey, can I take you out to coffee or something and let's chat? And we did. And he, at some point in the conversation said, I have this Excel spreadsheet with all these exact types of venues you're talking about, broken up by state, and, a little bit about the venue, the contact information for the booker, all this. And he just sent it to me, and he wasn't protective about it. I guess I don't know why I expected he would be, but it's just one of those things that you're like, oh yeah, people can totally just be super helpful. And then that creates all this goodwill. And, I'm sure he's been helped along by plenty of people in a similar way. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, I think there's always this rush to be the headliner, the top seller, the one everyone's talking about, which are all fine. Those are, I think, worthy goals. But I think you can want to just skip to the end. It's like, forget all this middle stuff of where I grow as a musician, get better, build relationships. I just want the end thing where everyone's fawning over me and my shows are all sold out. And I think along the way, there's a lot of things that can be learned by just partnering with other folks. It reminds me of this back in my label days. There was this other band that had an explosive debut album. When it was breaking, their record was breaking, and they became a headliner, the opening band on a very large tour. You're like, okay, yeah, I see how that makes sense. They could go out and headline their own tour, but yeah, they kept doing that for like 2 more years when they could have done headlining tours of their own that weren't as big. But because they played second fiddle, they were able to tap into some much larger audiences by not rushing out and going, it has to be all about us. Our record's selling more than these guys, And I think a lot of times there's ways where you can feel like, hey, just be patient, be a friend to the other artists in the community, get them to want to champion you for success, and good things will happen.
Yeah, and I think that there are very few things in the music world where there actually is a, it's either going to be them or me. Because even if you're worried about a gig slot, you could both be on the same bill. If you're worried about, a festival opportunity, maybe you can get on that festival too. There's not a whole lot of things where in order for you to have something, you have to bump someone else off the, the pecking order.
Yeah. All right, the next one I have, this one is very specific. This one is assuming your web presence is up to date. I think a lot of artists will go about and totally forget their website, and they'll be talking to fans, go, yeah, you can get all this information at my website. And they're like, no, we can't. Sure you can. You go there and it's like photos from 3 albums ago, the tour you did last year, and a blog post about the making of the album that you released 3 years prior.
I'm always amazed when people leave sites like that up. Like, without, if you're not going to keep it updated or say, hey, we've retired, then why?
Well, even if the band's still active, I think sometimes it's easy to have these pockets of the web that you've neglected. So I think the thing is, the mistake is just to assume that everything's up to par. Even if you need to make yourself a calendar reminder, like once a month, this is my calendar reminder. Look at the band website, make 5 minutes worth of updates. Go look at our YouTube page or our Twitter page or wherever you're managing content, that make sure that, that doesn't have our latest tour dates. That doesn't have a link to buy our latest album. Just those simple things that sometimes can cause confusion, especially with fans. If you're sending them a certain place and you're saying, hey, you can find our latest album there, and your latest album isn't linked there, but the old one is, it just adds confusion. But I see it happen all the time, even with major label artists, like big major label artists. I've been to some of their sites and I'm like, what on earth am I looking at?
Well, it goes back to, I'm thinking of one thing I forget a lot, which is that when I put a new video up on YouTube or Facebook, I tend to forget to embed it on my video page on my website. And it's part of that rushing through things that we talked about earlier. Like, when you take these steps, maybe you should make a little checklist for, every time I do this, I need to do these following 5 or whatever, 10 things. And, kind of make a process that's really, what would you say? Like kind of a scripted process for lots of the aspects of doing things online.
Yeah. All right, what's your next one?
Caring too much about the cool kids.
I like this one a lot.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I've seen this play out there's one band I have in mind in Portland here that has long broken up, but I saw this play out in a big way to their detriment.
Huh. Well, we'll have to discuss who that is later.
They cared way too much about what the cool kids thought and were too good to connect with fans.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many ways this can play out, but, we were in Portland, Oregon, and that's hipster capital, and the local media is, the sort of more, what would you say, sort of the more recognized local media is very into that sort of particular hipster aspects of various music genres. And, so like for me, I went there and I was heavily influenced by like Paul Simon and in the Beatles, like these people who are just ubiquitous, like everyone likes them, whatever. Like, so you have this sense that like your influences are somehow bland or not cool enough. Like, oh, it's not Neutral Milk Hotel or whatever, although I like him too, but you know what I mean? Like you feel like you need to hide some aspect of who you are or really start to make music that's trying to be something that you're generally not interested in. And I think like a lot of times I'd get upset if, a certain cool band didn't think I was really all that amazing or whatever, or that, that they didn't show much interest in me. And I'd think, like it would sort of hurt my feelings. And then I'd be like, why? I don't actually really like their music that much. I just want them to like me because they're cool. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in high school all over again. Like, so I think you can start courting the wrong audiences. You can start courting the wrong press, the wrong venues. If you don't have a real solid sense of like, this is what I am. I'm going to try to appeal to the people that like this thing and not worry about all that other stuff. And I know it's very hard to do. It's easier said than done. So
it's hard to do, but I think we sort of experienced this with Small Town Poets. Our manager was a very grassroots marketing kind of guy. And so in Nashville, it was like you would see all these people walking around town that you would think were selling thousands and thousands and thousands of records, and all their marketing seemed to be geared at the other industry people in town. And so everyone thought, hey, I'm seeing their picture everywhere. They must be doing well. But they had no fans. And it was like you're trying to get like the industry insiders to like what you do, but the fans are totally different people, and what you want is fans. They're the ones buying the music. They're the ones supporting your career. But I've also seen this play out a bunch in a place like Portland where there is that like hipster vibe with the media, and you're like, I really want these guys to make us their favorite band, and it's like, nope. I mean, we talked about with the reviews, the bad reviews episode, the ones saying these guys sound too professional, like they tune their guitars, and I'm like, what? And realizing that there's nothing I can do to get those folks to like what we do. That doesn't mean what we're doing is not good. Let's go find the right audience, you know?
Sure. And a lot of times that is about finding the right media to cover your music. Like maybe those particular publications, not only are they not really inclined to like your music, but probably the people that you were going to resonate with don't read those public. They might read some sort of less cool or less known thing, but yeah, it's kind of all a confusing minefield when you get into coolness, because the other thing is what's cool now is not going to be cool in 4 years because it'll be totally a burnt out idea. And
those usually
careers go up and down so quickly. Like
when you chase the cool crowd, you're usually chasing trends, which then, like you said, come and go really fast. By the time you're established in that trend, you're now a has-been. Yeah. In some cases, not all cases. All right, I've got one more, and then we'll move on to some calls after that. My last one is writing horrible spam emails to industry professionals that get deleted and blocked. And what I mean by that, or here's some tips, I should say. Read before you send. And by spam, I'm using the term spam loosely. I'm going to use that to say that you aren't taking much care and the attention to who you're writing to. You're just kind of blasting stuff out there to people. So things like horrible grammar, bad punctuation. Read before you send. Take a minute and read.
Copy and pasting the wrong venue name into your booking email.
I've gotten some of those at CD Baby where someone said, like, Jim, just wanted to follow up with a great conversation we had after this. I know that CD Baby would really love him. Like, delete. Like, come on. You can do better than that. So that's what people do. I mean, it's like everyone's got a full inbox. They don't want to have to filter and figure out who you're talking to and why. So read before you send. They don't want to feel like they're talking to someone who can't put two sentences together. Understand their needs. So like this comes across with club bookers a lot. I felt like some success we had with Hello Morning in Portland is we kind of tapped into the idea that, hey, there's the kind of rock bands the kind of rock band we are isn't very popular in Portland right now. It's all beards and banjos at the moment. And these headlining national acts were coming through, and this one club was coming to us pretty regularly because they needed a rock band to open. And it kind of understanding, okay, now I'm looking at the calendar of all these venues, understanding that that's a need that may be harder for them to find. So I'm going to go lead with that idea that, hey, we're a rock band. We'd open perfectly for this group. It looks like you have an availability on the schedule, and that worked many times. So understanding their needs, I think, is important. Don't write a book. If you're sending an email and you're on paragraph 3, you've gone 2.5 paragraphs too far. It should be quick. It should be longer than a text message. If you send emails that reads like a text message, then you're doing it wrong. But it should be quick and to the point, especially on a mobile phone. When you receive an email that's like 4 paragraphs long, it really does look like a book. And it means that people really have to focus in on what you have to say in order to comprehend it, and they're probably not going to care enough, so they'll just delete it. And I try to say, as a general rule, ask no more than one question, and then follow up, make a follow up, but a courteous follow up. Don't follow up 5 minutes later. Don't follow up a day later, but follow up in a respectable amount of time and be courteous and understand that they may never respond. But so that's my last mistake I see artists making all the time. And even with all the information out there about how to communicate well, I think in the mobile world, we're getting worse at it.
I have a specific bonus tip since all of my other ones were very general and vague.
Okay, go with your bonus tip.
Not using hashtags or not using enough hashtags on Instagram. You're wasting a chance to connect with lots of other people who don't know your music.
And I will say on Instagram, that is the one place where hashtags I have seen work a lot. There's whole communities that are posting things, especially in music, around hashtags. And the way Instagram handles hashtags is so much better than Twitter. So yes, there is no reason. It's not intrusive. It doesn't ruin the experience for people. And it does help people find you and connect with other communities.
And I think you're allowed up to 30 of them. So, go nuts.
Wow. It must be a lot because I see giant hashtag sections. I had one bonus tip as well. It's very clear we are now moving into a streaming world. And it is a mistake I see artists making to sit on the sidelines with their arms folded, pouting, saying they're not going to participate. If you're Taylor Swift, fine, you can make that decision, and maybe things will work out in your favor. But for the average artist, it's already been decided. We need to work to maybe better outcomes and pay. Hopefully we'll get there, but the listeners have voted. That's how they're going to engage with music in the future. And so you can either choose to be a part of that future or not to. So I think I've seen artists, they're like, no, I'm not going to participate. And I'm like, well, it's not like there's so few artists on the planet that's really troublesome.
Right.
There's plenty of other people that will fill that void for your fans. So that's my last tip. That it's like, you got to participate. Let's figure out how to make it better, how to use the tools to make it work, what strategies need to shift in that world to provide better outcomes.
I like
That's
it.
my bonus. Well, if you have anything that you would like us to add to the list, or you have a confession to make about how you've done one of these items repeatedly, feel free to call our listener line at 360-524-2209, or you can email us at podcast@cdbabypodcast.com, or you can weigh in on the show notes at this episode at cdbabypodcast.com. So yeah, I thought that was a good list. I've made lots of those mistakes, and
I was curious if it was possible to make to make all 10 mistakes in one move.
I've probably done it, not in one move, but I know I've done a lot of these.
Yeah, I've done all of them.
Anyway, I'd love to hear other artists' thoughts. With that being said, we have some phone calls, so let's get to it. This first call relates to our last episode about a bad review.
Hey, Kevin, this is Mark Gunn at ChelpFather.com, and I just listened to the latest episode on bad reviews, and I thought I would share my own and how a bad review can lead to great things, in fact. In 1999, my band, Rob Nugget Bars, put out an album called Marked by Great Size. I'm really excited about it, and I started trying to send it off to all the press, get reviews. I sent Dirty Linen when it was still around, and then I hounded him, and probably too much. I think I annoyed the hell out of him. The tone of the review suggests that. It was about 30 or 40 words. I think they gave us 2.5 stars, so it wasn't absolutely horrible, I guess. But they had a couple comments, saying, we were billing ourselves as a Celtic band, and they said, well, they don't know anything about what a jig actually is, which is true. At the time, we had no clue what a jig was. So because of that review, it really hit home, and I was pissed off and angry at them, and I did not reach out and try to do anything to them or anything like that. Instead, I pretty much stopped trying to get reviews. I realized at some point that no one wanted to review our album. I found out later why. It wasn't that great an album. But I realized that since they don't want to do it, I'll do it myself. Shortly after that, I started the Celtic Music Magazine, which later became the Ashton Celtic Music Podcast, which is now, to some degree, more popular than my own music. So look what the good can happen if you have a bad review. So keep those bad reviews coming. All right. You can find out more about my music at ChelpFather.com. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right, thank you for that call. See, I think some good came out of that bad review. He decided to start his own community around the music he makes, the style of music he makes, and that's a way you can just review it yourself.
Yeah, and also to get introduced to other people who make similar music, and other fan. And I'm sure that experience of starting that publication just drew. What am I trying to say here? Opened up opportunities for his original music.
Yep. All right. Thanks for that call. We've got another one, so let's get to it.
Hey, Kevin. This is Mark Lavengood from Grand Rapids, Michigan, calling in. I'm an artist and a representative of a music collective in Michigan called the Earthwork Music Collective, and we are in a unique opportunity where I am proactively building a team to help represent the artists and the mission and events promoted within the Earthwork Music Collective. And I'm doing an internship and am a mentor to my cousin who's studying advertising in college. And we have a team of people who are trying to build to do all the things a record label does that's really beneficial for artists, and offer that service to our artists in the collective. Right now there's nobody doing that, so I've taken it upon myself to do the work, and I'm studying and researching. I've been loving the DIY music podcast. You guys are freaking killing it. The one about the single I should say recently with a woman, Cassie, forget her last name. I'm going to go back and dig into that for many artists in the collective, soliciting for music libraries and sync licenses and whatnot. Anyway, I was just wondering what you might suggest for organization like the Earthwork Music Collective, which represents, 20 to 30 different artists, primarily from Michigan, some traveling the world, and how we could make the shift to building the team, people we might want to reach out to, and how we might learn more by seeking, other, resources like the DIY Music Podcast or other podcasts or online educational tools. That'd be sweet. Thanks so much. This is Mark Lavengood. You can check me out at marklavengood.com. Send me an email at contact@marklavengood.com. Thank you so much. Cheers.
All right. Thanks for the call, Mark. So I thought that was an interesting call because there was a group of artists, and instead of, like we were talking about, competing with each other, they formed a community that was mutually beneficial for everyone and trying to pool resources to move everyone forward.
Way to go.
He asked some questions about building a team. I'd probably need a little bit more info about what they've been up to, but one suggestion that I would have is that Spotify is the perfect place for you to build some playlists around your collective and brand it the collective, where you introduce a lot of these artists and where all the artists that are in this collective can have their fans listening to and sharing that playlist, and then everyone's music is getting some spins and people are introduced to more artists. And the cool thing with playlists is you can go and rearrange them and add new stuff and delete stuff anytime you want. So when new artists have music or you just want to feature other things, you can move it around and keep it fresh. So I would recommend trying to do some things like that and just keep building the idea of this artist community. Strength in numbers. We have one last call that has to do with pricing, and I thought it was a good one.
Hey guys, my name is Daniel Lyons. I'm in a band from Hawaii called the Fresh Preps. I just wanted to say I really love your show. It's always super helpful. I just wanted to ask a question about pricing on digital stores. So Google Play, iTunes, Spotify's not a store, but anyways, what is the best way to choose our own price? Because as far as I know, once you put it on CD Baby, it's just already, the price is chosen for us. And that just really seems like a system that doesn't make sense. And I know that that's not totally up to you guys because you guys have to work with whatever their policies are. But I was just wondering if there's any way to choose what price you wanted to sell on each individual store. Because really, if you think about it, in any other industry, that wouldn't make any sense. If you could sell something at a store, but the store picks your price and you're not able to change your price, even if that price totally doesn't make sense. So anyways, just wanted your guys' thoughts on that. Hope that I get on the show. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for the call, Daniel. We used to get this question a lot. I don't know if we still do here at CD Baby. You are correct in that the digital retailers like iTunes, Amazon, and all that have decided that they are going to set the price. Back when these stores were gaining popularity, there was much discussion about it. When Steve Jobs said a download's going to be 99 cents, he didn't care what anybody thought. That's what he decided.
You could participate or not.
Yep, exactly. So there has been a few changes over the years where certain artists are able to charge $1.29 per download. Sometimes if you have a certain number of tracks, you can get your album price raised, but it's still very fixed. In fact, Amazon's gone the opposite. In order to get featured on Amazon, you have to be willing to let your album price be like sometimes $2.99. Those things come into play. I mean, it does happen in some other industries. It's like, hey, if you want to sell in our store, this is what this item's going to cost. But yeah, it is kind of frustrating. That's why I always tell people, send your diehard fans, the fans that want to support you, to the place where you're going to make the most money from your music. And for me, that's cdbaby.com, because you can set the price. If you want to charge $15 for a digital EP, you are more than welcome to. And if your fans will pay it, that's great. So you can try different pricing, and you can charge what you want. And your diehard. Go ahead.
There's also the benefit of not just that you can choose your price, but that they will get their choice of a bunch of different download formats, one of which is CD quality audio files. So they're going to get a better sounding download, and you're going to make more money when you send them to CD Baby.
Yeah, exactly. So that's usually the strategy I have. It's like if someone comes to me and says, where can I buy your music? I say, go to cdbaby.com. And if it's somebody that says, hey, I use iTunes, can I get your music there? I'm like, yes, you can. If they're like, I'm on Spotify, can I stream you there? Yes, you can. But if I'm dealing with the folks that are closer to the super fan, I say, well, here's where, you can go, and it really helps us out. So that's the strategy I usually take. It is frustrating that in certain areas you have no control, and it's like, oh yeah, you don't like it, then you can take it down.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. I mean, this wasn't specifically asked in that question, but iTunes has various criteria for length. The length of the track will determine certain pricing tier shifts, and if it's an album of 4 songs that are all over 10 minutes, I think, don't they make you purchase the whole album?
Yeah, there's some things that are built in that if you dig around in the store, you'll start seeing those things. Like, yeah, if a song is over 10 minutes, it becomes album only. If you have certain number of tracks on your album that also meet a time requirement, meaning just basically normal songs, they're not 10-second songs. If you have, I think it's like once you hit like 15 or something, it automatically can shift the price up to like $11.99 for the album. There's like some threshold, but there's not a whole lot of pricing differences. Apple, when they launched iTunes, was not interested in selling music. They wanted to sell iPhones and iPods, and Amazon is interested in just getting people to the store to buy vacuum cleaners and other things. And so that's why the pricing is not flexible. So they want to have control of that to accomplish their plan. I hope that helps. Thanks you guys so much for the calls. If you'd like to call in and share a thought or ask a question, you can do so at 360-524-2209. That's 360-524-2209. You can email us at podcast@cdbabypodcast.com, or just go to the website and weigh in the show notes. We did get some good comments on the last couple episodes. The sync episode was much talked about. We got lots of, actually a lot of people were thanking us for that bad review podcast. I didn't know what people would think about that one.
Oh, good. I haven't looked at the comments in a while, so.
Well, actually, a lot of people were thanking me over Twitter, just saying, I really appreciated that. I'm like, huh, yeah.
The people, they felt our pain.
Yes, we can
or they just like laughing at us.
No, I think it's a coming together and all shedding a tear together.
It's a hard life.
For the bad reviews we've received, and the bad reviews, no matter how good our music career is, the bad reviews we will continue to receive. All right.
The rain has stopped here.
Oh, well, good. And
it went for about as long as our episode did.
Oh, excellent. Well, we all appreciate you doing this episode with your shirt on. That's just thanks for taking one for the team and turning the fan off and enduring summer humidity fully clothed.
Yeah, I don't think the nakedness should turn into a tradition.
No. Well, that's gonna do it for this episode. Don't forget to check out DIYmusicianCon.com and get your tickets for the conference this fall. We'll be there, and we want to see you there.
See you in Chicago.
All right, take it easy. Bye. You've been listening to the CD Baby DIY Musician Podcast, broadcasting from Portland, Oregon, USA.